Okay, so last pasuk in the perek. Ish re'im lehis ro'ea v'yesh ohev davek me'ach. First part is difficult to translate.
A friendly man?
It could be. I guess the most literal translation would be a man of friends,
Okay.
right? Might mean a friendly man, but yeah.
Okay.
All right, lehis ro'ea is the hard one, right? So I think we should even from the get-go look at Matzudas says lehis ro'ea is milashon rea v'chaver. So it comes from the lashon of rea and chaver, right? So friends. Sadigon says ish. He says yesh re'im le'adam. Okay, so maybe that's already an interpretation here. There are friends for a person. Misrotzit. What was that?
I have she'adam mirotzit.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, I do too. She'adam misrotzit bahem. Does that mean to fight?
Maybe.
Yeah, right. Like Shnei.
Yeah.
That was what Rivka felt, right? Misrotzim. They were fighting. Let me just double check that here. Yeah, crushing, shattering, or smashing. Bahem. Okay, so all right. So this is the important part in terms of the. I think there's going to be an even split here. Lehis ro'ea is either from lashon of like re'ah, like friend, kamocha, or it's from the lashon of ri'ua or whatever, reish ayin ayin, I think, which is shaking, quaking, smashing, bashing. Okay, so that's what Sadigon says. Okay, so we'll leave that blank for 1 second here. And same thing with if you look at the Targum Ksuvim, he says ish chavre demischabrin. So he learns it as, is that not what you have?
Oh yeah.
Okay, ish chavre demis. Did you say is or ish?
Is.
Oh, weird, right? Because you think it. Okay, is chavre demischabrin. There are friends who befriend, it sounds like, right? All right, and then, so let's translate the second half of Yesh ohev davek me'ach. How do you translate that?
And there is love.
Yeah, I think not love, that'd be ahava, right? There is a loved one, or, right, davek me'ach.
Clings from a brother.
Yeah, and I think this is also the mem of comparison. Because clings from sounds weird unless you're talking about like static cling.
It's about glue.
What was it?
It's about glue.
Yes. There is a loved one who clings more than a brother. Okay, so let me just read the English because I think we do need some guidance here. Hold on, let me just get rid of the Sion. Okay, so Archel says, a man with friends, ish re'im, lehis ro'ea, is befriended. Okay, and lehis ro'ea, I think they're getting that from the idea of the hispa'el, that it's an act that he's doing to himself. Okay, so I think that's what they're trying to do, is befriended, like he befriends himself with friends or something like that. You want a thing? Sometimes a friend is closer than a brother, so they say Davik is closer. Okay, I don't think clingier. Clingier would be the most literal translation, but I don't think that's the right connotation in English. Living Nach says a man makes friends to keep him company. So ish re'im lehis ro'ea is to, again, like friend himself, right? Like to become friends with himself. For a loved one can be closer than a brother. Okay, and then Alter says there is a companionable man to keep company with, and there's a friend closer than a brother. And then the other one who you don't have, the only other one who I saw who has a radically different translation is the Malbim. And so, hispa'el is usually reflexive, but there's another meaning of hispa'el verbs, like another way to interpret all hispa'el verbs. Nope.
Remove from oneself?
I couldn't understand that.
Remove from oneself?
Remove from oneself. Nope. It means to pretend. And in English, it makes sense, right? If you say, like, for example, like there's a pasuk elsewhere that says, Yesh mis asher. So that could either be translated, there is one who makes himself wealthy, or he pretends to be wealthy, which in English he makes himself wealthy, like he's like making him seem wealthy. So the Malbim translates this lihis ro'ea as hispa'el more al hamidume. This is hispa'el that is pointing, or that is indicating the imaginary. Kamo mis asher mis roshes mis kaved. So it means he pretends to have friends, okay, or he imagines he has friends. All right, so that's another translation. Yeah. Okay. So let's just take stock of what we have so far. So a man of friends. So we have either, I guess, makes friends for himself would be the most literal one, right? I mean, it's also weird. It's in the infinitive, right? Lehisro'ea. I don't even know what to make of that. Makes friends for himself. The second one was sadigon, which is misrotes. What do we say? Crushing or smashing? Yesh re'im she'adam misrates behem. There are friends who a person like fights with, I guess, right? So that's sadigon. There are friends with whom a person fights. And then we didn't read the second half of Sadigon. V'yesh yedid davek yoser me'ach. And there is a beloved one closer than a brother. And then we have the Malbim, which is a man of friends imagines himself to have friends. I don't know. I don't even know how to translate. Yeah. Okay. So those are our options here. So I guess we should go probably with the mainstream one because it's mainstream. And then that's the makes friends for himself or some variant of that.
And that's the shattering.
Not the shattering one, yeah. Yeah. So what are the questions?
How many times is there a double I in Hebrew words?
Yeah, I think a lot of the double ayin ones are like, yeah, I'm just trying to think of other examples. Like I feel like I see them in 4-letter shorashim, like double, like nianuim or giaguim or like, yeah.
What is this pasuk like trying to say?
Yeah.
It's
a good question.
Kind of sounds like it's saying people like having friends, and
Yeah.
friends are really good.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell whether the right. It does sound like it's stating a fact, kind of like our last pasuk, right? Like it's pointing out a phenomenon. It's not really like saying to do something. I mean, so I guess we'll ask the question on yeah, okay, fine. I'll just say what. I mean, is that different than what does the pasuk mean, or what is the practical application? Can we get it more specific?
It seems obvious.
Oh, it seems obvious, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I guess to me, it's not comprehensible enough to be obvious for the first half, at least.
Yeah, I was thinking more about the
second half. Yeah. Okay, so we can ask that in the second half. So the second half seems obvious, which is interesting. I mean, it is obvious, but it's also somewhat contrary to a puzzle we did a few pasukim earlier about the brother, right? That the brother is closer. Well, what was the pasuk?
It was about the Goral.
What was that?
It was about
the Goral. Yeah. The palace bulbs, right?
Yeah. Right. It was about the not Goral.
Yeah. What was it?
Portion there who took off to Naminat.
Yeah, but with the ach was one of the interpretations, though, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Nifsha b'kiras oz midyanim
Midyanim yashbis. No.
Kiras b'vriyach armon.
Kivriach Amon. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that was emphasizing how a brother is closer or more reliable than an ordinary person, than a friend, in times of trouble. And this is, I'm not saying it's a contradiction, but this is pointing out how you can have someone who is an ohev who is closer than a brother. Yeah.
I guess is the are the re'im the same as the ohev?
Okay, yeah. So what is the relationship between re'im and ohev? Can we ask a basic question of what is an ish re'im?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, good.
What is the history?
Yeah, what is lichis roea?
Also, I think what does it mean by an ohev?
Yeah, I think is that different than what I was asking? What is a the same as an ohev? I guess I'll just add what is the definition? What is the definition of each one? Yeah, I'm gonna say what is lichis roea like definitionally and syntactically, meaning like lehis roea, infinitive reflexive. Like what's that? Yeah, what does that mean?
What is the relationship between the first half and the second half?
Yeah.
Like more specifically, is the first half is it somehow like a prerequisite for the second
Yeah.
half?
Oh, that's a good question, right? Is it a prerequisite? Is it a contrast? Is the second half explaining the first half?
I guess what's the connection to the Ish Reim and his Lehisuro Eamis?
Yes, right.
What's he doing?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'll say yeah. What is an ish re'im? What is the hisro ea? And how do the two relate to each other? Yeah, this is a tough one. Tough one to read.
Yeah.
All right, so let's. I think that's enough questions. Yeah.
Who's the audience?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, somebody say yesh ohev. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean like there is a situation like that?
Yeah. So Sadigon's rule for yesh psukim is that it is just pointing out cases, and then we have to draw our own, or like point out phenomena, and then we have to draw our own conclusions. And it's all, and the implication is yesh. I mean, you could almost like add a word yesh to the beginning of the first half. Yesh ish reim hisro eav yesh ohev davik me'ach. I think that's the implication, even though it doesn't say the word yesh.
Maybe the first half is like not a command, but like a suggestion.
It could be, yeah. I mean, then you got a weird thing, right? Of the first half being some sort of imperative, and then the second half being I accidentally clicked on an ad that just popped up. How did that happen? Even maybe it wasn't an ad, maybe it was an upgrade thing. Okay, whatever.
In our translation, are we translating it as he's an Ish Reim or it's Ish Reim Lehisuro Ea? I forgot which.
I think ish re'im is more mashma, and then that ish re'im is lichis roea. But I'm it's equally confusing and equally ambiguous. So
Right.
I just think the second way is harder. Ish re'im lichis roea. It's just that's even less comprehensible.
Well, wow, there's a person who befriends to have friends or whatever, something like that. So, like.
Right, but then you're also adding a verb into the first half, right? There's a friend who befriends to have friends. You could do that, but like re'im is like
Friends
is a noun.
yeah. Plain pshar is that ish is a noun and re'im is a noun.
Yeah.
Right. That's the straightest reading.
Okay.
Right. A man. That's why I translate it as a man of friends. Yeah, definitely feels like there are words missing here. So can we get anything without going to Mefarshim yet? I'm going to assume that Re'im and Ohavim are different because I don't think the two halves of the pasuk are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get something from there. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna pause something I think is not a big step, which
Yeah.
is that not every person who has friends is an Ish Reim.
Okay. That's a good thing to posit.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone has friends, but there's a ish re'im. Yeah. So then maybe there are three. I don't know if it's people or relationship levels here. There's like your average like friend. Okay. You have a person who has a friend. Then there's a person who is an ish re'im, and then there's ohavim.
Yeah.
So now,
maybe this is maybe this is like going a little too far. So could we just maybe say like a general idea that this just like popped into my head, so I'm gonna say like there's a person who like has friends and remains at the level of just being like regular friends with them, not like a close relationship, and then there's like and there exists like a close relationship you can form with people.
Yeah, I hear that from the words, because it's basically saying Ish Reim is just going to remain in the Re'al level. It's going to be the not to use the word in the way that the common populace uses it, but the friend zone. like friend zone being in contrast to the Ahava zone. I don't think it's talking about like romantic love here, but so an Ish Reim is just going to be in. What is he going to do with his friends? Is just lihis roea. He'll just like be friends with them, But there is an ohev davik me'ach,
Yeah. Also, Isha, right? Like the fact that we're like calling this, we're like defining him and
Yeah.
him. It sounds like, I mean, it seems like he has a lot of friends.
Yes, it does. Yeah. I think that's a good deduction. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next thing I was gonna say was that I'm gonna take the Malbim's reading of his story.
Okay.
Is that he's trying to make himself feel like he has, like he's trying to mimic the phenomenon of the second half.
Yes.
By having a lot of friends, that like he'll have like the like feeling of closeness to a lot of people.
Okay, good. I want to actually check and see if that's what the Malbim actually says in his explanation. Again, sorry, you don't have the Malbim there. But the Malbim says, Ish Reim, Kvar Amru HaMechachrim. Yeah, I think so. I'll read it. Tell me. The Mechachrim, I don't know if these are like investigators. I don't know if this is like sociologists. Ki hakone ohavim rabim afilu echad ein lo. Someone who acquires many friends, he doesn't even have one friend. Okay. Ki ha'ava yechidahi. Because love is singular or individual. I don't know exactly how to translate it. B'chol shetis rabe batla v'nifrada. And the more you increase, then the more it negates it and separates it. V'zeh shekasav mish yeshlo re'im harbe, someone who has lots of friends, who rak lihis ro'ea. It is only lihis ro'ea. Sheyidmeh shehu ish re'us v're'im. He imagines that he's a man of friendship and friends. Okay. Kizeh geter binyan hispa'el al hamaduma. This is what the hispa'el binyan is in terms of the imaginary. Ube'emes ein l'reim, but in truth he doesn't have friends. V'ish ohev im yesh lo ohev echad. If he has only one ohev, like one beloved person, good friend, I don't know how you want to translate it, az hu davek me'ach. Then he will be closer than a brother. V'zeh geter ha'ava. That's the definition of ahava. Shetigdal al kol ha'ahavos gam me'avas achim, which is greater than all of the loves, even the love of brothers, because you can have many brothers. But so this is saying that like what does it mean that it's going to be above? Like in other words, you have many brothers and you love your brothers, but a real good friend is going to transcend that, because it's going to be like something that is not shared. It's going to be like a unique relationship that's going to be not shared with anyone. So that's along the lines of what you're saying, right? It's like this guy in the first half thinks that he's partaking of the same phenomenon as the second half, but he doesn't. So let's see if we can explain that. Like, so what is that guy doing, and what is his mistake?
He's trying to fill his like need for connection with, many people who are each gonna like give like little droplets.
Right.
and he's gonna like get the like feeling that he thinks he's like being satiated or his thirst quenched, but it's not actually. It's like just enough to like keep him alive.
Yeah, I think the connection thing is a good thing. Is like I think people feel like, in other words, what you feel when you have a really good friend is you feel a connection, and the mistake is to think that the phenomenon of making or enjoying these connections is the substance of the pleasure of that good friendship. And therefore you think the more connections I can make, then the more pleasure I'll get from my friendships. But really that's not true, is that the real friendship is going to be of a different quality. And the good feelings that you get come from that quality, not from the phenomenon of connection per se, Yeah.
Not from the
Right. Let's do this. Let's just skim through the Mefarshim and see if there's anyone else who takes that approach, even if they don't translate as Lihis Roea. The idea, though, of the many versus the one, because I think that is that does seem like a main point here. So let's see. Oh, and by the way, so I did not. I realized that I didn't copy the last page with Rabbeinu Yonah, so I made separate Rabbeinu Yonahs. But I don't think Rabbeinu Yonah takes this approach. Okay, so let's see here. Rashi. So this is start with Metzudas David. Metzudas David says, what was that? Bottom right, Yishreim, Ish Yehov es Hareim. Person will love friends. Lama'an Yisro Eu Imo v'yischabru elav, so that they will befriend him and befriend him. Ki lifamim yimsa ohev hadavik la'ohavo la'ahuvo ba'ahavas nefesh yoser min ha'ach. For sometimes he will find a loved one who he clings to in his love more than the love of another, of avas nefesh, love of himself, maybe yoser min ha'ach, more than his brother. And that's why he will want their friendship because of the good that will come sometimes. So that's a different interpretation, right? He's saying basically like you're fishing a lot in the sense of like you're trying to have many friendships in the hopes of having like this one friendship that is more which is closer than a brother, and that's what it sounds like he's saying, right? It's like you're trying, you need to not sort through, but you need to like cultivate a lot of friendships, and then some of them like lead to this, and most of them don't. Yeah, that's slightly different than the.
So is he saying that's a good approach to take, or is that like a?
I don't know. I'm not sure, right? Because he uses the future tense.
It sounds like he's saying what people do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is future tense could either be this is what people will do, or you should do this. I mean, it is true that you should do this because. You don't fall into deep lasting friendships just randomly. It's not like you like step out of your house to like get the newspaper and a friend falls from the heavens and like you become, like you have to like have lots and lots of friendships, and then some of them develop into these things.
Not to cross the Cheetahs, but like if you do this, aren't you falling sort of into the trap that we're saying is a problem?
I don't think so, because what we were saying the trap is when you mistake these superficial friendships for real friendships. This is saying that the only way to develop deep friendships is starting off as superficial friendships. I mean, this is really like really what we should do in the sugya of friendship is go to the Rambam in Kanei L'cha Chaver and Perkei Avos, where he says the different levels of friendships. But he says, the basic thing is there's three levels of friendships, which are actually four. There's a friend of utility, where the only basis of the relationship is you get a certain use out of the other person, so like the example I always give is like my barber before he retired was like we would make conversation and like we knew each other for a long time, but like only in the context of like when he's cutting my hair. Like I'm not like calling him up and saying like you want to hang out, and then the second one is a friendship of pleasure or enjoyment, of which there are two types. One is where you enjoy, you get pleasure out of the friendship. I think that's most people's friendships, is you enjoy their company, you have common interests, you enjoy their humor, whatever. And then the deeper level within that is a friendship of security, where you are very open with each other and you trust the other person, and you don't hold anything back. You tell them all of your secrets. You don't fear that they're going to judge you. And there's a deeper pleasure from that, where you take total security in a person who like is non-judgmental and like you can relate to each other like that. And then the highest level is a friendship for a higher purpose, where your values are shared and you're both striving to help each other achieve the true good. So in that paradigm, the Rambam is saying that there are higher and lower levels of friendship, but I think he would agree that the only way these friendships tend to start is from just friendships of utility or friendships of pleasure. You don't just dive into a friendship for a higher purpose. It has to start off in a way. So I guess the mistake would be if you're mistaking one for the other, then that's like what the Malbim is saying. Yeah.
Well, then why is that true? What about a chavrusa, like a guy who you meet in context of learning with him?
Exactly. So that's starting from utility, and then you develop a deeper.
Yes, that's it's utility, but like you're sharing a common value. Like you're trying to reach.
But I don't know if that's what the friendship itself. In other words, okay, most chavrusas, there's such thing as life chavrusas. but you don't start off as life chavrusa. You start off with a gemara chavrusa, a halacha chavrusa. Like we learn together, and we are only in it because the foundation of that relationship is the learning is enhanced together. And if you didn't learn well with them, then you wouldn't be a chavrusa, and then it could develop into something more, where you start like talking about like life issues and stuff like that. And it's true that the thing that led them there is the fact that you both value learning, but that's not what is occurring. That's not what you're developing in a total life sense in the midst of the chavrusa. In the same way as like when you get a haircut, you and your barber both are operating in a realm where the way your hair looks matters. Right? Like if you were in a society where everyone just wore hats, then there would be no barber-client utility relationships. So the same thing with the like chavrusa, like the thing that makes you partner up is the fact that you are valuing learning, but the nature of what you're doing in the relationship is not automatically going to be the higher level of where you're completely like helping each other perfect each other in a total sense. Let's look at the Rabbeinu Yonah just because it's a different approach and he connects it to yesterday's. Okay, so if you want the Rabbeinu Yonah, here, this side is the Rabbeinu Yonah, and then I printed the gra on the back because I wanted to use up the rest of the paper. I haven't read the gra yet, though. Okay, so Rabbeinu Yonah, I think Isaac has in his. Isaac, you tell us if there's anything different in yours. Ish reim lihisroea lihispaer ulihishalel. So that's a completely different translation. Okay, lihisroea is to glorify yourself and to take to praise yourself. That's interesting. I don't know where he's getting that etymologically from.
I don't know how you read the beginning of the pasuk.
Say again.
I don't know how you read the beginning of the pasuk.
Yishreim.
Yishreim lihisroea.
Men are friends to exalt themselves.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess so. Right. Let's see. V'kamohu alai faleshes es rawa. Okay. What?
Oh, okay.
What was that? Okay. I don't know that pasuk, so I'm not sure how to translate it. Ubir ha'inyan. So the explanation is Kimi shiish lo reim lo harbe. Someone who has a lot of friends. So he is learning it as a man of many friends. Yagi'enu mi ribui hareim tiferes utihila. He will attain from these friends from this abundance of friends, splendor and praise. Ki ribui hareim yarbe kavod ha'adam. Because an abundance of friends will increase a person's, esteem, a person's honor is a weird word to use here, but like esteem, I guess. V'yasir yiras habrios, and will remove fear of people. I guess because you got like a big safety net, social safety net.
Honor can make sense.
Yeah.
Like people give honor to
That's
people
true.
who are very popular,
Yeah, that's true. I just wasn't saying honor in the sense of like kavod tamid chachamim type honor. It's more like
social honor.
Yeah, right. Social credibility or something like that. Okay, here we go. This is where he connects it to the previous pasuk, and he will escape from the degeneracy that is found in poverty. Now, I don't know what he means by that, but if he is connecting to the previous one, then it means the degeneracy of like the poor person is like a lowly, degraded person, and he has to like supplicate to other people, like we said yesterday. This is something that is praising wealth. Okay. This is okay. Where was he going with this? Ki yagia mimeno hatoelos hamagia min haosher im hasaras hagaiva v'anos azus. Okay, so because through this he will arrive at the benefit that comes from wealth with the removal of haughtiness and brazen answering.
I have a slightly different concept.
Do you have vihu?
Yeah.
Mina osher vihu hagaiva v'anos azus?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this one is better. Because I think that would not make sense.
I have Impasaras in brackets.
Oh yeah. So the brackets is the correct one. Yeah. So in other words, what he's saying is like the downside of wealth that we said yesterday, that it's going to make you be haughty and brazen. If you have a lot of friends, then that can remove you from the haughtiness and the brazenness. I think that's what he's saying. Well, let's find out. Because someone who's not wealthy, lo yikne reim v'ohavim im hagaiva v'anos azos, will not acquire, or I don't know what he's saying anymore, will not acquire friends and loved ones with haughtiness and brazen answering. Rather, he will acquire them on account of his lowliness and his tolerance or his patience. Okay, so maybe I did misunderstand that. Let me read it till the end though. V'zeha kinyan, and this acquisition, rotzlamar kinyan hachaverim, the acquisition of friends, lo yimatze larash. So this will not be present for the poor person. Kasher ksiv, as it says, v'dal me're'ehu yipared, that a person's poor person's friends will separate from him, distance themselves from him. Val yimatze leish asher yesh biado desipuko. But it will be found to a person who has what he needs, and is not in need of anyone else. Okay, I'm going to finish the whole thing, and then we got to figure out what he's saying. Yeah, that's in parentheses, or you have those in your actual text? Oh, interesting, because I have it in parentheses. Yeah, I'm trusting my Rabbeinu Yonah more than yours in this case, because this is I think this one is either on par or as critical as the Torah Chaim. The brackets, and we have it also, V'gam einenu ashir, and he's not wealthy, which I guess does fit in, right? Meaning he's got enough. He's not poor, but he's not wealthy. He's in the middle.
Actually, the footnote guy says, "La tarful matter, v'gam einenu ashir."
Okay, right. All right. Aside from the honor that comes from friends and loved ones, timate badavar hatoelas, you'll find a benefit in this. So this is like what the Metzudas was saying, because maybe you'll happen to stumble upon from all these friends an ohev ne'aman, a trustworthy friend. The tov yihi elo me'ach, and he will be better for him than a brother. Ki yesh ohev davig me'ach. So what does he say? I mean, he is clearly connecting this to the previous pasuk, right? I'm not imagining that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is he saying though? First part was clear. There's a certain prestige that comes from having lots of friends. Prestige is probably a good word, right? Yeah. So he's translating the pasuk as a man of friends if a man has friends, it will be for his glory. I guess that's probably how he will translate it. But now he's connecting it to the previous thing, and that's where I'm losing him here. Because it sounded like he's saying, Ki riboy hareim, this is on the third line, Ki riboy hareim yarbe kavod lahanam v'yasar yiras habrios, v'natzal min hapachisus hanimsa ba'oni. He will escape from the degeneracy that is found in poverty. So the degeneracy that's found in poverty is what we talked about yesterday, which is the people trampling on you and like you having to like suck up to them in order to like get your money. So it sounds like he's going to escape from that. And he
Yeah, if you read Behu, it makes sense.
Yeah, Vihu Hagaiva of Anos Azus.
Yeah, meaning he actually he still gets friends even though he's haughty.
Oh, even though. Okay.
Yeah, and he's haughty, whereas the poor person doesn't. He only gets them.
Mm-hmm. But then doesn't he go back though and say that that first of all he says Ki ha'ish asher einenu bal osher. So if you're not wealthy, lo yikne re'im v'ohavim hagava anos azos. So that fits into what you were saying, which is that the guy who is wealthy can get friends despite his gaiva, but the person who's not wealthy can't.
Right.
Then he says, ach yikne osam b'sibas hashiflus v'hasavlanos.
Right. You can only get it through your shiflus.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is interesting then. Okay, so maybe that's what it's saying is that there's two paths to get friends. So and this is not good friends. This is like just stom social relations, because the good friend is in the second half of the pasuk. So the wealthy guy has the advantage of he will be able to make friends despite the fact that he has socially repellent qualities. And the poor person has the advantage of the qualities he naturally has are also going to lead to friendship, right? Because he's shafal and savlan, right? But then he says, if you're super poor, then you won't get it. There's like a middle ground, right? Because he is differentiating between an einenu bal osher and then a rash. Right. Rash, he says, will not get it because dal me re'ehu yipared, his friends will distance themselves from him. But if you are ish asher yesh biado desipuko, if you have enough, so then you won't have the haughtiness of the rich person. You'll have a certain like base level shiflus or like savlanus, and then that'll allow you to make friends. I mean, the whole thing he's doing here is, again, like yesterday we said the main idea according to Rabbeinu Yonah is your socioeconomic status will engender bad midos, right? If you're rich, you get the bad midos of brazenness and haughtiness, and if you're poor, you get the bad midos of lowliness and all that stuff. What this is saying now is it's also going to affect your social, the nature of your social relations, which is that you'll make lots of friends, even though you're not actually someone who is like, that appealing to be friends with in the sense of like gaiva, because people don't actually like bearing the brunt of someone's gaiva and azos. Like this is not a pleasant relationship, and if you're poor, if you're really poor, you also won't get you won't have friends, and it'll prevent you from forming good friends because no one wants to be friends with someone who's really poor, So this, it sounds like he's just taking it as the upshot of yesterday's pasuk was the fact that when you're striving for wealth or to avoid poverty, it's not just a matter of taking care of your needs. There are other social factors that are dragged along with it. And this is another dimension of those social factors. You want to check out the Gra and see what he says on the back? Here, Isaac, you can use this. Sorry. It's the one that is not, the pasuk is not centered, so I think you got to flip it. Yeah. All right. I haven't read this yet. Ish reim Israel. Ish hamarbe reim beveso hu yishaver. Person who is marbe reim beveso. That's interesting. A person who increases friends in his house will be broken. Kamo sha'amru, as it says, all yarbe adam reim besof beso. It's a Gemara. Don't increase friends in your house. If you have a loved one and he's not with you, but wherever he is, he's a loved one. Nevertheless, he'll be more beloved than or closer than a brother. Right, so Yehonasan's soul clung to David. So even though they weren't like living in the same house, then it was a closer friendship than a brother who is living in the same house. That's probably where he's getting the house thing from also, not just the Gemara, but like your brother is in your house with you, or this starts off that way. Vihis dab kus ha'ohev hu yoser me'ach. And the closeness of an ohev is greater than an ach. Because the brotherly love is because they came from the same place. But now they're separate. But the ohev clings to you constantly. So a person has three friends. One is this a metaphor? Meaning like his money is his friend. Second one is his relatives, and the third is his acts of chesed and goodness. This is a person of friends. He chases after two friends, the two friends. He'll be broken. Because they can't go with him to the grave. Right? What kind of friend are you if you don't even die, go to the grave? Even when he's almost going to die, and he falls into bed, and he's very sick, that love will not help him. It will not save him from the decree of death. But there is a friend. So this is taking it metaphorically, by the way. Now there is an ohev. It's not with him. Well, but it exists. It's closer than your relatives, and that's the brother. That's good deeds. Okay, that's metaphorical. So but the first part is the interesting one, right? He's saying that this seems like a variant of the mistake we were saying before, that I think people who have superficial friendships also think that the kiyum of the friendship, like the benefit, is from spending time with them, but the deepest friendships are not necessarily even sustained by a constant interaction with them. In fact, that could harm the friendship. I was actually just giving this advice, since you've all been to yeshiva, you can tell me if you've seen this phenomenon also. When I give advice to the students who are going to seminary, I say the biggest mistake you can make probability wise is being roommates with your best friend. Don't be roommates with your best friend. I've just seen so many cases where people who are best friends are roommates and then they end up like at each other's throats and like, and then sometimes it even ends the friendship. And maybe that's a level of maturity thing. Like, I'm not saying that that's true of human nature. I'm saying like for high schoolers, when they always think, oh, I'm just gonna be roommates with my best friend. But I don't know. Have you seen that happen or not?
I haven't really experienced
No.
that.
Yeah.
Not like personally or in yeshiva.
All right.
I mean, girls and guys can definitely be different.
No, this happened with guys too in my years in yeshiva here also. What was I gonna say? But it's a similar mistake to the Malbim of you think that, like, it's like this. If your friendship is a friendship of enjoyment or pleasure, so then the more time you spend with them, then the greater you're partaking of the friendship. But true friendships are not contingent on the the day-to-day constant interaction, because the basis of that relationship is, like we were saying with the Rambam, like a sharing of values and a desire to perfect the other person, to help each other in your quest for like living the good life, so like those they can be living in a different place. Like there are people who I only see like once a year or talk to like every couple of months, and like because it has that level of friendship, then like you get tremendous benefit despite the fact that you're not interacting with each other on a day-to-day basis. So it's a similar mistake to the Malbim in the sense of like this person thinks that the more friends I have who I spend time with constantly, then the better I am. I'm doing better at friendship, but it's not dependent on the constancy and it's not dependent on the quantity. Yeah, I would pair this with Malbim. Yeah. The Meiri doesn't have anything on this because yeah. Alrighty, stop here.
The first half could definitely be